Hi everyone, my name is Leandra. Today I'm going to talk about the differences between college and medical school. I graduated from college in March of 2020 and I just finished my first year of medical school and about to head into my second. So I'm here to talk about some of the differences that I've noticed between the two academic environments. I'm going to start off by talking about study habits, and I'm going to start by talking the way I studied in college. So in college, whenever I went to lecture, I would have the professor's slides already loaded up in my computer, or sometimes I would print them out. And then during class, I would take notes on what I felt was most pertinent to the information. So anything the professor said that was relevant to the material or something I felt was really important and could be tested on during an exam, I wrote it down on my notes. Then after class, what I would do is transfer all of that information from the professor's slides and from my own notes into a notebook just like this one. So this is a college ruled one subject notebook. You can find this pretty much at any office store, and I would put all of my notes into a notebook just like this. I would categorize it, organize it in a way that worked for me, and I would rewrite it in my own words. And then in terms of studying for an exam, I would just reread all of my notes in my notebook. And I would probably reread it 3 to 6 times for every exam that I ever had, and doing so repeatedly helped me retain the information. During that time, I would also do any practice questions or practice tests that the professor provided. And if I came across anything that seemed a little bit weird or something I didn't understand, I would take note of that question and I would bring it to lecture and ask the professor in person. Or I would go to office hours with the TA, which is the teaching assistant, usually a grad student. But that is how I studied in college. I will say when I think about college, I think time was definitely a luxury. I never felt like I had to cram a whole bunch of information in a small period of time. I felt like, if anything, I sometimes procrastinated, but I was still able to pull through. And that is something that I definitely do not have the luxury of in medical school, and I'll talk more about that now. So the way I study in medical school is a bit different, mostly due to the short amount of time that I have and the increased amount of information that I have to remember. So in medical school, it's different in general because I have pre-work now, meaning before I even enter the classroom, I already did work on my end. So sometimes in medical school, we have PDF readings or we have videos that we need to watch to get some background information on a topic. And I will take notes on all of that in a notebook just like this one. So I continue handwriting my notes. And then in class, I have the slides already loaded up onto my laptop. I have my stylus, which is a pen, and then I just write on my laptop any of the extra information that the professor goes over. So it's very similar in that way to college. That did not change. Now, what changes is what happens after class. I no longer rewrite everything that I learned into my notebook. I did that in the very beginning of medical school, but I realized that time was not working for me. It was too time consuming. So what I do now is I print out my slides. So after class, I will print out all the diagrams that helped me during session and all the answers to all the questions we went through, and I'll print it out, but I will condense it so I don't have so many pieces of paper. So for example, if a PowerPoint has 20 slides, I can condense that down into 3 pages usually by just reorganizing everything and only choosing the information that stood out most to me during session. And so after class, I'll have my slides printed out, and then I'll have my pre-work notes in my notebook. And those are the 2 things I leave class with. Now, what's also different about medical school is that I'll also do flashcards, meaning that when I reread the material, I will make my own flashcards. I don't always have time to go through all my flashcards before a quiz or before an exam, but I do think that in the long term, it will help me if I just need to go back to something really quickly. And it's a good way to pass the time if I'm in the car or something like that, just to scroll through flashcards. I will say that doing the flashcards is something new for me, but it has helped a lot. Before an exam in medical school, sometimes I will forget something we learned in the very first week of the block, and so having those flashcards does help. Just remind me of the things that we learned very early on. So that is how I study in medical school now. In general, I do feel like I am no longer able to go through the material 3 to 6 times. I'm lucky if I get through everything twice because of the short amount of time that I have, and it is different. I do feel that med school is much more stressful and we go through so much more information, so I've had to adapt and change my study habits to fit the fast pace of the curriculum. Now I'm going to talk about research opportunities. So in college, I think that research opportunities were generally easy to come by. I think that the Highlander Link portal, which is this online portal from UC Riverside, helped a lot. I talk a little bit more about this in my video and I'll link it down below, but I found out many opportunities through that portal or by just networking with other pre-meds, other students in my classes, and finding out about open spots in their labs that they were already in. Here in medical school, it's, I think, even easier to find research because the school itself has more individualized support to the students. In college, the class size is so big, we're talking tens of thousands of students, so it's kind of impossible to provide that individualized support to every single student. But here in medical school, my class is only 50 students, so there is a designated Office of Research that works with every single student to match them with a research mentor and something that they're interested in. Not only that, but I do get emails to check in with me, asking me how my research is going, do I have any questions, any updates, things like that. What's really helpful during medical school too is that there is a required scholarly project that we have to complete by the time we graduate. It doesn't need to be research, but I think that most of the students here at my school are doing research to fulfill that requirement. So I think pretty much everyone is involved in something with a mentor, some type of project. And what's cool about that is we have an Office of Research that will connect you with pretty much anything you're interested in. So some of my classmates are doing research in medication adherence or cardiology related things, ortho related things, dermatology, all sorts of fields, and the Office of Research is really great at matching you with something that will interest you and something that you're excited about. In terms of social life, this is very different between the two environments for sure. I do think that I just had more time in college to enjoy my social life. There was just so many opportunities to grab lunch with somebody, to hang out with people, to de-stress after finals in college. Whereas in medical school, there's not a lot of time, but the interactions I do have with my friends, I do think that I cherish them more now because they don't come as frequently. And I also think that the cohort in the two environments is very different. Coming from college and going straight into medical school, I didn't realize how different the environment would be. Not everyone in medical school is around the same age, and there are fewer people, so I do think in general it's harder to make friends. This is just my personal experience, but coming from a public university, there were so many people to meet, whereas in medical school there's only 50 of us, so it's kind of hard to make those connections right away. On the other hand, I know every single person's name in my class, whereas I definitely did not know everybody's name at UCR in my graduating class. So I think there's pros and cons to having a small class. Time management between the two environments is very different. I will say that in college, I was able to work out pretty much every day if I wanted to for about 45 minutes to an hour, whereas in medical school, I struggled to even find time to exercise, and if I did exercise, I would try to do it 2 times a week, 3 times a week, and they would be shorter than 45 minutes. I think it's hard to find a balance. That's something I struggled with in particular, of finding time outside of school and making time for other things that did not include studying. We just have so much going on because we have mandatory classes, we have pre-work before the classes, we have to study after the classes, we have to do extracurriculars, research, and then working out and cooking and anything else that makes us happy in terms of hobbies. It's really hard to fit all that into a schedule, and that is so different than college because I had never really struggled finding time to relax and de-stress in college. These are some of the things that stood out most to me. If you have any more questions, feel free to follow me on Instagram and message me there. I have it all linked down below. Thank you for watching.